This is Research Group Number 2, Science Literacy. Our presentation will introduce you to science literacy, the demands of the content area, as well as skills and strategies to enable students to become scientifically literate. Science is an area of study that requires its own technical, abstract language and complex material that can often be difficult for students at both the elementary and secondary levels. During our presentation, I will introduce you to science literacy and what it takes to help children become scientific thinkers and scientifically literate. Nicole will be discussing strategies to assist with reading comprehension in science. Danielle will be discussing the value of multiple texts. Melissa will be discussing science vocabulary strategies. Dina will be discussing effective writing strategies. And Athena will be discussing the importance of and strategies associated with technology in scientific literacy. Literacy demands in science. Science literacy is difficult to instruct for a variety of reasons at both the elementary and secondary levels. Students at the elementary level, which is typically considered kindergarten through 4th grade, tend to have little or no background knowledge in any area of science. Scientific concepts build upon one another as they are instructed, so the less background knowledge or schema a student has on that specific topic, the more difficult it is for them to learn the material, which will in turn affect their retention of the material. Vocabulary is also a problem that is associated with background knowledge, since many of the terms are specific to science. Elementary teachers also have a variety of reading levels in their classroom, which poses a problem in teaching from a textbook, since they are usually on a higher reading level than most of the students. Narrative texts have traditionally been the only text used in elementary classrooms, especially to be utilized for read-alouds in the younger grades. In a landmark study performed by Duke in 2000, the lack of informational text in primary classrooms is alarming, and students have limited ability to interact with them. Expository texts were also scarce. Although there are many of the same scientific literacy demands in the secondary level as elementary, there are more challenges due to the age of the students and availability of materials other than the traditional textbook. Science is a specialized discipline that encompasses its own language and processes to allow students to think like a scientist. The material is complex and requires adequate domain knowledge and reading strategies to help comprehend the material, according to Fang and Wei. Secondary science teachers are also a master of their craft and are not typically trained to instruct reading strategies in addition to the vast amount of content they need to cover within the year. Students at this level are also less motivated to learn and are disengaged from reading because for years they have viewed science as just another subject their teachers say they are supposed to know. They also find it challenging since many scientific topics are far removed from their everyday life experiences and are often dealing with technical, dense, abstract material. Teachers will have several classes a day with a large range of reading abilities in each, and although secondary students are able to read everyday texts, many frequently cannot understand specialized or more advanced texts, according to Berman and Bianca Rosa in 2005. They also discuss that adolescents need adequate support in reading advanced texts due to the fact that they are usually unprepared to meet the higher literacy demands of today's colleges and workplaces, as Fang also stated in the article in 2005. How can students become scientifically literate? The instruction of scientific concepts can be integrated into literacy instruction in order to support reading skill and strategy instruction. In 2001, the International Reading Association discussed the importance for continued reading instruction beyond the elementary grades because secondary students need additional support when given reading assignments in dense and complex content area classes such as science. For students to become scientifically literate, science educators Wellington and Osborne suggest that science curriculum should include goals that develop student abilities to access and comprehend science texts and material. Integrating reading into a science program has many benefits in the secondary level to allow for these students to become scientifically literate citizens. In 2004, Yor explained that science is a mixture of inquiry and argument, which lends itself to required reading skills and strategies to fully comprehend and analyze the material in the content area. Science educators have stated that if students do not have the ability to read and use strategies while doing so, they are severely limited to what they can retain when learning in the science content area, and will thus be delayed in their development of science literacy and its intricate content. Read-alouds are a valuable tool to use in the elementary classroom, since they are traditionally a vital component of most literacy lessons anyway. Heise and Kukan discussed in their article in The Reading Teacher the positive effects that read-alouds and the accompanying discussions can have in the elementary classroom. Elementary teachers have the opportunity to introduce students to scientific ideas through teacher-led read-alouds. They also performed a study where they measured the difference of reading comprehension between two groups of students. One group, the first, listened to the read-aloud and then responded to discussion questions only at the end of the reading, whereas the other group was asked discussion questions throughout the reading. The latter group outperformed the other in both comprehension tests and retention of the material. It was then concluded that teachers should prepare questions prior to the read-aloud and ask them frequently throughout to ensure that students understand the concepts and can begin to think critically about the material being instructed. This will then lead to a greater understanding of the material and will help the students apply it to other content areas and possibly gain interest in additional scientific concepts. Background knowledge is also extended when students are given the opportunity to discuss ideas as a whole group both before, during, and after reading, whether it is through a teacher-led read-aloud, guided reading, or independent reading. The reading comprehension strategies associated with before, during, and after reading can enhance a student's background knowledge and will in turn help them understand the topic more completely and be able to think critically about what they are learning and how they can relate it to their own personal experiences. Due to this, students should be given the opportunity to engage their reading skills in a variety of informational and scientific texts on all levels and topics. Effective use of scientific texts. Instructing reading strategies into the content area is vital for students to be able to comprehend the complex knowledge in a science textbook no matter the level. Trade books are an excellent source of information for students to learn scientific concepts from books, not only on their level, but ones that are more visually appealing and interesting, such as picture books and other types of informational texts like periodicals and digital media. Fang and Wee's 2010 study suggests using high-quality literature to instruct science through literacy. They also believe that if students were required to read a variety of scientific texts at home, in addition to school, they would develop greater literacy skills and knowledge of the material. A variety of texts is key for student motivation and engagement. In their study, Fang and Wee worked with science teachers to help them develop lessons to teach reading strategies through a variety of scientific texts. It was concluded that after students were taught several reading comprehension strategies and were reminded to apply them to their reading of their science texts, they were able to understand the material more in depth and significantly outperformed other students who were not taught the same reading strategies to apply while reading the same texts. Periodicals such as Science News for Kids, Discovery Magazine, Kids Discover Magazine, Odyssey Magazine, and many others are great tools to use in the science classroom at both the elementary and secondary levels. They are visually stimulating and are written in a less complex language than traditional textbooks, which will increase student motivation to want to learn in the science content area. Many of these periodicals can also be found online as digital texts, which are a useful tool for our 21st century classrooms. Students are more likely to want to read as well as learn if technology is integrated into the instruction. Reading does not have to only include paper-based texts anymore. It should also include digital texts as well, such as online journals, magazines, weblogs, podcasts, etc. Developing advanced literacy in science instruction. In order for students to develop into scientifically literate students, they must be instructed explicitly with reading strategies that can help them comprehend and think critically about the material. These reading comprehension strategies will also build background knowledge to allow students to apply their learned knowledge to other topics and subjects. Exposure to multiple texts, vocabulary instruction, writing activities, and technology should all be integrated into science instruction to better cope with the demands of scientific texts and concepts according to Fang and Wei. Reading instruction should not be limited to language arts classrooms or stop as students enter the secondary grades. Master teachers of science should be fully equipped to help students comprehend the difficult material by using these strategies in the classroom. School districts across the country and their literacy coaches can help by providing with these teachers with ideas, strategies, and professional development workshops to enhance their instruction to help students become scientifically literate citizens.